Hello and welcome to the election special finally starting. I'd like to start off with a quick explanation and a little apology for the delay. Basically, I mean, we haven't done it this way before. There's still things to sort out, little kinks to figure out. The results take a time to collate and do afterwards, and also it also takes a bit of time to plan out how this election is gonna go through the program. It also I had a bit of an issue with my software. I was going to do it as a PowerPoint thing, but it looked really crap when I finished it. So I've had to shift everything over to OBS in the space of 3 hours, which it was very, very stressful to try and get it done for the deadline, and it's still not completely finished. So if you hear typing in the background, it is me finishing off parts of it. But I think we can get in, and I can introduce you to our two hosts. As you can see, there is a picture of one up here at the moment. The other one will be following shortly. Introducing one of your co-hosts for this evening, McKenna.
Hi, I'm kind of nervous. I haven't been on any podcasts since April, never mind for hosting, so hope this goes well, and I'm glad to be here with you.
And our other co-host, whose picture's not up yet, but will be up shortly, Sysadmin.
Hello. Thanks, everyone, for joining and listening in.
Okay, so we've got a very fun program for you this evening. I think we're going to see some very nice results, depending on whose side you're backing. Depends on whether you consider them to be nice or not. So we will move in. Actually, no, let's first have a conversation. What has been your guys' view of the election so far?
I think it's been rather interesting, rather exciting. I mean, it was interesting to see some people didn't take advantage of the simulated component and some of those things that could have boosted or flipped the elections, as we'll see later on. There were some close elections. And, I mean, even though it was only a relatively small portion, there were some votes where honestly, if people had taken full advantage of the sim component, they could have won the whole election.
Yes. I would say it was interesting from my end, as someone who, for the first time, is in a position of leadership in my party. It was certainly taking over everything, as always, but people, I think, were a bit unfamiliar with the sim component since this is the first election, so if this continues into the future, we might see people take more advantage of the simulated aspects.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I think as much as it has taken a bit of time, I think all you need to do here is give. I mean, it's the first time we've used this new electoral system, and the same thing. The old electoral system we used to have had teething problems as well, had issues. So at the beginning, so I think it's safe to say that it's not the end of the world. I don't think. I mean, I think, yeah, it has been a bit slow coming out, and we have had a few technical issues. But I think it's good. I think it's a nice new system. Of course, it's only something we get to test once a month. So we might do a few little test runs before the next election to make sure everything's going sexy. But I mean, that's up to the FEC really. So let me just make sure that there we go. There is everyone. Oh, I've put sysadmin's name too high. Okay, I think we can. I think we're getting some results at the moment from District 2. Here is what we have from District 2 at the moment with 25% reporting. We have Leia in the lead by only 1% here. 50.6% to Galt 49.4. I've forgotten to put a percentage sign on there. What do you guys think of these results so far? 50.6 to 49.4 with 25% reporting.
Well, I think it's pretty remarkable to have such close results at this point. People have made a lot of the race, I think, with Layla being a former president, a former senator, obviously a strong contender. And Galt is currently, I think, the HHS secretary, so also someone in prominent position. So to see these two be so neck on neck is definitely interesting.
What about you, Sis? What are you thinking here? Sis?
Oh, hello. My bad. Only 25% reporting, so obviously there's a lot of room for things to change. And we'll obviously have to see if Leia increases her foothold or where things end up.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, especially with the Republican leaving the race, that did leave a larger coalition to potentially contest Layla. But I mean, we'll have to see. I'd imagine that this won't end up being the final result, but obviously we'll have to see as more precincts close and report their data.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Leia's been a senator in the past. I think. How?
Yeah, I think she's been a senator, I believe, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. How do you think if she is elected again in a separate one? How do you think she's going to act in the Senate now? Because before she was more on the right hand side, and now she's moved to the left. So how do you think she's going to be in the Senate?
I think the one thing that I find interesting is that Layla has spoken a few times about how her out of RP and in RP beliefs don't necessarily line up all the time. So I'd be interested in how separate she can keep those and if they end up influencing her if she wins, because the senatorial term is, after all, the longest term at 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What were you going to say, Sis?
I was going to say, well, she's obviously going to caucus with the left coalition, but I mean, we'll have to see where she stands on the host of other issues. I mean, as McKenna had mentioned, the in and out of RP views she takes are more moderate in RP. Plus, she does hold some slightly more quote-unquote conservative views with things like guns and abortion. So, I mean, I think it would depend on the legislation that we see and the topic, but overall, I mean, certainly would skew the seat left. And this was former Senator, now House Majority Leader, or rather GOP Leader James's seat. So it would certainly, should she win, flip the balance of the Senate, or especially the seat, a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I think District 2's always been a difficult one to call. It's never really gone down partisan lines too much. It flips all over the place. It's not like, I mean, it's similar to D3. I'd say D3 is a swing seat, but if the left work well together in D3, usually they can take it. It's just usually the left haven't worked well together. I think, I mean, we're hoping to see some results from D3 later on. But I think, to be honest, 50 to 49, it's all still to play for here. I mean, I think we're way too early to call this race, I think. I mean, what are your guys' predictions for the ending of D2 to see where D2 will end up at the end? Yeah.
I think honestly, in the end, I do think. I mean, a former president that's represented a district several times. I think you can probably say that it'll be in their column, and I think Leia will probably take the seat. But obviously, that is yet to be determined. But again, I do kind of believe it'll probably end up in her column.
Yeah, I'm leaning to agreeing to you there. I think that I'm not sure how much by, but I again, this is very, very early on reporting, and I really do think that Layla will kind of take this one. Maybe it's just that some more swing constituencies have been have reported first, maybe.
Maybe. But I also would say that her opponent has recently faced some accusations of inactivity, especially with the current pandemic in the country. So that might play a role. I'm not sure. I think we could all agree that Layla has been a very active member for a long time. So I think that might play a big role in how I think this will end. I wouldn't be that surprised if she takes her seat back.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised either. I can remember Layla before she was president in the Senate. I think that's when she was in the Senate. I could have just put egg on my face there, but yeah, I think she was a good senator before, and I think if she does win, she'll be a good senator again. I mean, we haven't really seen much from Galt. I mean, at least I haven't. What are your guys's thing experience with Galt?
I mean, I haven't really worked with Galt or interacted with him too much. I mean, looking at things like legislative history, Leia certainly has a much more comprehensive like legislative and executive history than Galt does, but from my understanding, Galt has achieved things in Congress and in the executive. So
I would also say that I don't have much experience with Galt personally or professionally at this point.
No, I've had no experience with them either, which might be quite telling of maybe activity there, that activity argument that's come up. That some of the most experienced members on the server haven't really had much to do with them. But, I mean, it's all still to play for, I think. I really do think it is. Now, I think we can move on here to our next set of results that we've got in just recently. It's District 1 at the moment. Now, District 1 is really quite unbelievable, I think. 19% reporting, 41% Schlorp, 59% Amidala. I mean, wow. What do you think's going on here?
I think you're seeing. Sorry, sorry, sis. It's a bit sometimes. I'm like, oh, am I supposed to talk first?
No, you're more than welcome to go.
I said that I think this really shows the early success at 90%, of course, of the Democratic Socialist Alliance that has seen, I would say, a pretty big revival in the last few weeks. So it seems like District 1 voters who lean to the left have certainly put their trust at this point more towards Amidala.
Yeah, what were you going to say, Sis?
So I was going to say, first off, with only 19-20% reporting, we'll obviously have to see where this vote comes in, because there's still enough votes to come in, and it's still a relatively narrow gap this early on that we can see where things go. I mean, it's also interesting because while Schlorp economically is like a lot of the other libertarians, obviously libertarian, socially he tends to find himself voting with the more left bloc. And I mean, we've seen, the Senate clerk has prepared some of that lovely, the alignment charts that show, the voting and alignment. And I mean, you see, you see with Schlorp that he will kind of align with the left caucus there. So, I mean, I think it's just interesting to see this. And, I'm curious about the voting base composition. I mean, I'd imagine obviously the socialists and the Democrats backed Amidala, and they're more the Republicans, Libertarians backed Schlorp, which again is just kind of interesting dynamic because also usually, Republicans in the past have also usually fielded their own candidate in D1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with you there. And I think we're going to, before we talk a bit more about this, we've got a member, someone who whipped for short. Who will be coming on in just a second if I can get them. There they are. Just give us bear with us whilst we roll them into the. Oh no, they didn't join the call. Maybe they won't be joining us. Are you coming on? Wait, what? Yeah. 1 second.
While we're waiting on that, maybe an interesting aspect to look at is also that Schlorp is the incumbent senator in that seat. So it will be interesting how much his incumbency plays into that. Could it be that people want to see a new face there, or that they've come to trust Schlorp in his position as senator?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's very, very early days, but what's your view on this, Sis? Do you think that people have lost faith?
It could be. I mean, recently we've seen Schlorp, sometimes people have been dissatisfied with some of his more recent actions. They've seen a little, him joking a little too much in the Senate, so that could play into some of the frustration.
Right.
But also, I mean, it ends up depending on how many people registered to vote and how many of those votes actually were valid. So obviously, we'll have to see there.
Yeah, it turns out that our person has got a sore throat and won't be on at the moment. They've been wheeled back out, so they're going to go bye. I will try and get someone to interview. I really do want to do this, but I think just as a bit of speculation here before we see any further results, McKenna, what do you think the Senate outlook is going to be? Because we've seen the current Senate overview, and I'm going to put that up at the moment. This is the Senate as it stands at the moment, right? With the current seats in grey. So at the moment it's 1 socialist, 1 Republican, and 3 libertarians. That's how it stands at the moment. Of course, like I said, without the members who are up to vote on there. How do you think the Senate's going to look at the end of this? Do you think we're going to see a right-dominated Senate or a left-dominated Senate?
Well, I mean, as chair of the Democratic Party, I would hope, of course, that our party picks up some new seats and retains the seat that it has. But I do think that the right coalition has been proven very strong in the last election, both in the Senate and in the White House, of course.
Yes.
So I think we're most likely going to see a very, very closely split Senate. That's my prediction at the second.
Well, what about you, Alexis?
I'd agree. I think it's going to be a split Senate. It'll also be interesting because it looks like we're positioned for there to be a possible fairly strong libertarian presence in the Senate. I mean, as you can see with the graph up, there's already 3 seats that are libertarian.
Yeah.
And we haven't looked at like D4 and some of the others, but I mean, there's a chance they could have 4 or so seats be libertarian. So then there's also a question, because we've seen it in the past, of what the libertarians do. Do they all caucus with the right? Do they split? So I mean, there's a lot of questions there.
Yes, definitely. And I think I'm going to get some people to be interviewed in just a second. But I completely agree that the Senate is well built for a right takeover. 1 second, I just need to. I think that even if the left sweep the seats that they can, and the seats that I think the left can take, if things go right. I mean, D1 is currently showing as a left seat. They might be able to take that. So if the left take D1 and they take, they most likely will take D2, D3, and D5. So that's 3 seats to take. That gives them nowhere near. Like even that's a majority win in this election, right? That's only leaving 2 seats over to the Republicans and Libertarians. And like, oh no, sorry, it's 4 seats. But even if they do take 4 seats, it's still a Libertarian victory, or a no, Smith is a Libertarian. Yeah, it'd be a Libertarian victory most likely if Smith was to win in D4. So, and that would give the right control of the Senate. The only way here that the left can have any hope is to take of any form of control is to win the presidency and also to take every seat in the Senate, which is really unlikely, I think.
I would agree on that front.
Yeah. But I think what's a good thing is doing exactly what the Libertarians and the Republican, or especially the Libertarians, did last time around. Is this puts, if the left can take, say, 3 or 4 seats here, it puts them in great stead to make that jump in the next election, to knock the people out, the current people in, out of office, and to take the Senate back for the left. So it really depends on the way you look at it, I think. I think either way it's going to be, I think it's going to be the left is going to win the day, but it's going to lose the Senate. And put it itself in good stead for next month. I think that's what's probably going to happen.
And
I think so.
Go on, sis.
No, I mean, it's just also interesting because if you think back a few months ago, I want to say this was the bunch of seats that at one point went all Republican. I believe it was the Class 2 seat. I could be wrong, but I feel like this was, this was the red wave that we had 2 or 3 months ago. So it's just interesting to see this, stranglehold that because at one point 2 or 3 months ago, the Republicans, the right caucus had a 7-3, 8-2 majority in the Senate, and now I mean, just the Republicans have 1 seat currently, and the the Libertarians rather really face this resurgence. Is interesting.
Yeah,
I would also say that what you said about the next election, then if you look at the seats that are up for re-election at that point, only 1 seat is from the left, Mr. Romerio's seat. So it really poses an interesting race for the coming month, since both the Libertarians and the Republicans will have to defend a lot of their seats, or in the Republicans' case, all their seats.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you there. And I think, well, I've got some, I got some, seeing as we're talking about the left, I decided, so there were some people who said they wanted to say hello. So we have got here, I think he is, is he finance secretary? Oh, I can't, how have I forgotten your...
Treasury
Secretary.
Treasury Secretary Carton, and also... I think he's Speaker Pro Temp, Kay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
So 2 people here from the Socialist Party, the leftiest of the left. So what's your guys' view on the Senate, on the election so far, and on where you think the Senate's going to end up in the next month or the next 2 months?
Well, I mean, obviously we have just very preliminary result at this time, so it's a bit early to, make any call or say with a strong vote, of course, the left's going to win the Senate. But I think, for one thing, that there is a strong chance that we can at least tie the Senate and have a 5-5 Senate, left and right. And then I think it's going to be a very interesting sequence of negotiations amongst all the senators and senators-elect to form a caucus that can actually have a stable majority.
Yeah, what's your view on it, Key?
I also think it's important to consider how things might be able to pass even without whoever wins the official majority. Because this month we've seen in practice the left has had tremendous influence over actual Senate votes, even though when you look at the caucuses, on paper, they have a far smaller caucus than the right caucus, but they've been able to build a lot of consensus with some libertarian senators, which may mean that the bar for actually governing the Senate in practice is lower than the 5 or 6 members required.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about? I mean, activity is always something that's important in the Senate. What's your view on that, on how that's going to affect things? Key.
I mean,
anyone.
oh yeah, sure.
Anyone here?
Oh well, I was about to say I think the Senate hasn't been that active over the course of the past month. I don't want to throw blame to anyone. That's just my overall feeling from what I've seen happening, or rather not happening, on the Senate floor. So my hope really is that all the winners tonight are actually really committed to the job and are going to do the job at the best of ability. And I mean, speaking for the left, I really think we've got very strong candidates who will be dedicated to their office if they win. So I do hope that what I hope will be a left-wing victory overall will also end up with a Senate a bit more active than what we've seen over the course of the last month.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think you always get more activity with newly elected senators, and hopefully, I mean, I don't think how many incumbents have we got running here? I think Schlorp's an incumbent.
Smith is an incumbent.
Smith's an incumbent.
And Morales as well.
And Morales. So I mean, there's only 3 candidates here who are incumbent. That's two Senate seats that are up for grabs with no one challenging, or nobody who's incumbent. So I think it's quite a. I think we might see like you say, a boost in activity, Carton.
I would also have a question to you both, if you don't mind, on the topic of activity. Some people have commented on the influence of being active in main chat pertaining to activity or standing in for activity. What is you guys' view on this? Do you think main chat activity is representative of overall activity, or do you think it's kind of a cheap point to make? Quay, do you want to answer on that?
Sure, I can start. I definitely believe the latter. I don't think that being active in Maine is a one-to-one correlation with being active in government or just the community in general, because there are a lot of people that are very committed to writing legislation and doing the work that they would like to in whatever office they hold, even if they maybe don't join Voice as much or talk a lot in a lot of the actual channels. I feel like a good example of that is Cade, who was one of the community's most well-renowned bill writers, and he's not been very active in Maine when he held a major office and even when he hasn't. So I don't think that it's necessarily the best factor.
I'd agree with you there. I mean, I'm someone who has never really been hugely active in chats, in typing. My activity has usually been based around voice. So I mean, there's different forms of activity. But, yeah, go on.
Oh, sorry. I mean, speaking from my personal experience, I ran twice for the Senate in District 5, and then I won on the 3rd time in July. And the big difference between these first 2 attempts and the one where I actually got elected was that in between June and July, I started being active on Maine, which was something I didn't do before. And actually, most of the bills I proposed before I became a senator, I proposed in May or in June, at the time where people would have considered me not as active as others, even though all my messages were related to the role play and the actual job of governing. And Maine wasn't really my main focus, but it also made a difference for me, I feel, in my race, that I was more perceived as more active as a result of me actually getting involved in Maine.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think that I think activity is sometimes. Well, I think it's not just activity. I don't think in Maine that counters activity in any other part. I think it's just name recognition. I think people see you more if you're typing in Maine and recognize your name more and realize who you are than if you're putting forwards bills and writing in the House. I think it may just be kind of a name recognition issue.
Although, sorry.
Go on, sis, go on.
Although, I mean, now some of that will change with the simulated component, because this might, well, for example, part of the impact on the sim component is legislative and executive history, actions you've taken, and more of these factors that people might not necessarily look at that kind of get neglected, that will still kind of factor in regarding work you've done. So, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic changes going forward as well.
Definitely. I think that's definitely going to be an important factor here.
And when it comes to getting votes during the election, there's two factors. One, obviously, is whipping and being able to get your people to the ballot box, including inactive. And when it comes to whipping, your actual activity on Maine or the rest of the server doesn't really matter as much as your ability to mass DM people. And visibility and name recognition really plays a role, in my opinion, for a few votes of people who actually are active but maybe on the fence on the special election, and it can swing maybe 2 or 3 votes. I think the debate on activity regarding a candidate, at the end of the day, it's really a debate between active people to consider if a candidate is active or not enough for their taste. But it doesn't really influence the overall final result as much as actually being able to win.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
I think we've seen the power of whipping in the past, especially, for example, in the Democratic Party with people such as the Whip King himself, Hersey, who's got himself into a bit of trouble a few times through whipping, and the power that gave him to actually mess over one of our vice presidential candidates this time around, which is Wonder, and stop him from. He's probably going to hate me for mentioning this.
Well, you do bring it up every time his name comes up.
Why not? I think it's.
It is a page of VC history.
Yeah.
It is.
It is a page of VC history where Wonder, the person who was expected to win from the beginning, lost on the last day due to whipping.
And wasn't it only by like a vote or two, if I recall correctly?
Yeah.
I mean, I was in retirement at the time, so I'm kind of glad to have missed that time period of VC history.
Oh, there you go. Wonder's in chat. He's gone down with it. There we go.
I did want to say something about what Cotton said about visibility or name recognition. What I also think is that you have a great way, which is, I think, one of the better aspects of counting main chat activity or non-RP activity, let's call it, into how you feel about candidates, is you have a great way to get to know people on a personal basis, which is a way you can't really do on the House floor, let's say. You can really get a professional opinion of someone through RP, but I think the personal touch really, really matters in things like main chat or even on Twitter.
Oh yeah, I'd very much agree with that. I'd say that yes. I think you do get very much more attached to people on voice and no, well, on voice definitely, but on text chat as well. And I think I mean Krishna, for example. I love Krishna. Krishna's amazing, right? But what has Krishna done except for BLF on voice chat?
Ping people excessively.
Yeah.
I mean, he provided some votes during his time in the Senate, which had helped the then president Leia. But I mean, yeah, he's never really proposed any of his own legislation or anything. Mostly just voted.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, he is has got a cabinet position at the moment, I believe, and various other things. He's done
Yep,
various other
Secretary
things.
of State.
Yeah, like it does make me laugh when you get things like that, and I really do think it's kind of case in point almost when you get candidates like that. I don't know. It's just it proves almost what we've been talking about, or when it comes to activity in chat correlating to other things. Come on, brain. Activity contributing to number of votes. But like you said, Sis, I think that's going to become less of an issue going forward, especially with how much campaigning and history is going to start meaning stuff. Now, before we are going to move on to another result in just a second, but Sis, would you be able to kind of explain to everybody how this new voting system works?
Sure. So, I mean, as always, and especially currently, well, the standard election day vote component works as it always does. As for the simulated component, well, what we do is 3/4, 75% of the overall election result is from just straight up direct ballots. The other 25% is from the simulated component. And that in this election cycle has been a mix of endorsements people have gotten. Your endorsement weight is based on positions you've held in the past and all that sort of stuff. Plus things like how many ads you posted or the quality of the ads, the rallies you've done, speeches you've done, how the debates were, and if you kind of presented more. And for things like debates and rallies, and the platforms which were weighted a decent amount, things like, and not just length but also depth or how concrete they were. If you didn't just say, we believe in XYZ, but also we believe in XYZ, and here's how we're going to accomplish this, or here's my plan for things. So, kind of not vague descriptions of ideas or things you want to do, but kind of concrete plans to get there. Those are all taken into account. And then, as I mentioned earlier, things like past legislative or executive actions and positions held, etc. And those all were weighed, scored by different members of the FEC, and calculated into the sim component, which was then, weighed with the overall ballot portion.
Yeah, what I mean, I haven't really heard too much of what other people think of this. What do you and what do Carton and Key think of the new electoral system? I'll start off with Key.
Well, I think that I think it's going to be a massive improvement over the current system that we have. Well, not the current system, the system that we've had prior to this election. I think the main upgrade is that people that put a lot of effort into their campaigns and do a lot of work to try and prove that they deserve the spot that they're running for, that's going to see more of a return on investment than it ever has in the past. Because there are people that choose to write really good at-length platforms that go into a lot of depth about what they actually stand for, and there are others that don't. And the people that do actually care enough to put a lot of effort into running their campaigns and reaching out to voters, that doesn't always get a lot of recognition with the electorate at large, and it's not at all a correlation with who actually ends up winning. As we've looked at in the past, people like Krishna, who may be more active in Maine, but have not run as active campaigns and have still managed to attain higher positions. So I think that people putting more work into actually running and showing the voters who they are, that's going to see a larger return on investment than it ever has before, which is a big upgrade in my opinion.
I completely agree with you there. I think you really are seeing an upgrade here of from the past. My God, that's low quality. Okay, so we're going to look at some more results here for you, so you don't get absolutely bored out of your brains, and don't come trying to burn my house down or something. So we're going to get D3 results here. 21% reporting, showing Lee miles ahead at 68%, and Mitchell quite far behind at 32%. What I mean, seeing as that, I think this is a perfect thing to talk about here, because it is just a wholly left seat at the moment. It was going to the left either way. What are your guys' view on the candidates? Everybody here, what's everybody's kind of view on this race?
Well, I'll jump in first. I mean, I think it was just a matter of how left the district is. Somewhat. I mean, they're both left, but Mitchell is clearly very much. I mean, he's in the Socialist Party, has always espoused those ideals, being SPNC chair a month or two ago, whereas Lee recently was the Republican Speaker of the House.
Mm-hmm.
Now a Democrat. So I mean, it depends. I mean, we've seen D3 is. I mean, its other seat is currently held by Jacob, who's a Republican, one of the more conservative in the Senate, actually. And then, I mean, in the past, has held by Blur, who was a crap backed by sort of the Republican and Libertarians in the district. And then previously